oh dear, today is January 10th, 2015, and my name is Linda Oakley.
Nice to meet you, Linda.
And I'm conducting an oral history interview at Maple Point in Monticello, Illinois, with Kent Shonkwiler. Kent, I need you to state your name and your address for the record.
Kent Shonkwiler, 348 North Champaign Street in Beeman, Illinois.
Now we can talk.
Okay.
Okay. So were you National Guard? Were you...
I was active duty originally, and then...
Army?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I got out and joined the Guard. I was in the Guard when we got activated.
Okay.
So.
Were you married at the time?
Yes, with 2 kids and the third on the way.
Oh my. So you were activated to deploy?
Yes.
So when was this?
It had been November when we got the call, and so I think December we spent just in Peoria prepping, and then we went to Fort Knox, Kentucky in January, which I had like January 3rd or something like that. And then we were in Fort Knox, January and February.
Okay.
Still doing training or whatnot. And so we were training in the snow to go to the desert, which I always thought summed up the military pretty good. So then we got on a plane, it was a C-130, and we flew over, how did we go? We went to like Newfoundland, and then Ireland, and then to Kuwait. And I remember because we lost the 29th. So we left on February 28th, and because of the time changing and the flight was so long, we landed on March 1st.
So you lost a day.
We lost that day completely.
But then you gained it when you came back.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But I think the thing was if we got that one day in February, then that month would be tax-free.
Ah.
And we didn't land until March 1st, so we didn't.
Oh.
So I think
So where were you at then?
So and then we were in Kuwait for, 2 weeks. And then we convoyed up forever. It took forever. Did we spend the night? Can't remember if we stopped and spent a night somewhere.
What year was this?
This would have been 04.
Okay. All right.
It was 04. So it was the second year that troops were over there.
Okay.
And our sister company, F Company, was from Peoria, had left the year before. So they were up there waiting for us.
Were you replacing them?
Yeah.
I mean, you were their replacement.
Yes, we came and replaced them, and they had actually been there for quite a long time because they'd been extended a couple times. So they were there let's say 18 months. And so we did this long convoy. We got lost in Baghdad because we didn't make a right turn or something. And I remember that we were stopped in the middle of Baghdad. And that was kind of hairy. And then we went on and we went to Balad, Iraq, to Camp Anaconda. And that's where we were at for pretty much the rest of it. I mean, we did a couple different missions here and there, but it was pretty much where we were.
What was your job?
I was a fueler. So we were an aviation unit, so I fueled Blackhawks and Chinooks and different helicopters.
So you were in the desert. Now, were you in tents or were you in barracks?
Well, see, because F Company, they were in it was like a big old circus tent, and they had their rooms separated by the plywood, and they had basically it looked like a shanty town. But we got, since we were the second ones, we got trailers. And so there's a trailer with no bathroom, but it was 2 bedrooms in my area because I was in E6. So we had our first sergeant and the master sergeant were in the room next to us, and then me and the other E6 in our section. Me and him were roommates for the rest of it. Now the E5s and below, their trailers were split into threes.
Okay.
So it was the same dimension of a trailer, but they had smaller areas.
Smaller areas.
Mm-hmm.
So now were you able to contact home? I mean, did you have internet service? Did you have...
Yeah, they had internet service up. So you had to go to a tent and like, sign in, and then you could also call home, which it wasn't, you just basically had to figure out when the best time to call home was. So you'd end up waking up at like 3 in the morning to go to the tent so you could call them, because otherwise you weren't going to get. So I'd always try to get my wife at work or something like that. So.
Okay, so now, did you not say that when you left you were expecting your third? Is that right? So when was this little one born?
He was born July 5th. And so I got to come home on leave. I'm saying it was like July. I got home either the 3rd or the 4th.
So you were home when he was born?
Yeah, so I was home when he was born, and 2 weeks later I left.
So then how long were you total overseas?
Then I got back. We came back in, what was it? February of 05. Yeah, we came back in February of 05.
So, okay, you were a fueler. So basically you didn't go out. You stayed on base, right?
Yeah.
Because they were coming to you, not you going out.
Right, they just land on the, we had this, it was basically, Camp Anaconda was an old base that we had just took over.
Okay.
And then we expanded it with our trailer park and just made it bigger and bigger and bigger. But it was like, they had these, there were like big bunkers, and that's where they pulled the helicopters in to do maintenance and stuff like that. But they had like a long airstrip, and the helicopters were just parked all the way down there, and we'd just drive the truck along and fill them up. Now we did do, like they would send, I don't know, like 6 Blackhawks up to help, a group up north, and we'd convoy up that way to support that. So then we'd leave the base then. And then there was 1 month where me and another guy were in Baghdad in the green zone to support all those guys that got in all the trouble. The civilian soldiers.
Okay.
What's that? Blackwater. We supported them. And basically they just had 3 what they called little birds, which are like the ones you see in the Magnum P.I. show. Just that little itty bitty cab. And so they were taking Ambassador Negroponte, I think was his name. And they were his guy. So anytime he went anywhere, they'd have this convoy of like black SUVs come into that air base, and they'd get him out, and they'd get him on that thing, and they'd take off. And so there was 3 of them, and they'd all have their their guns hanging out and whatnot. And they were all like ex-special forces guys and whatnot.
So how long were you there on that one?
Just a month.
Oh,
that was in August. That was after I got back from being home, because I went there for the month. And then basically we just rotated a month because it was kind of looked at as the cake spot. You'd go there, and it was pretty nice because you could hang out, and it was like somewhat civilized, and they had like we weren't supposed to go there, but it was a Chinese these Chinese people made a restaurant, and so you could go there. If you went in, but you'd have to change into civilians, which is weird because all the civilian contractors would go there. Because there's that was the weird part about it. There's so many civilians there. It was all civilians, everything. I mean, all the food was ran by civilians. All the fuel that we got our fuel from was ran by civilians. You know, it was just civilian contractors everywhere. So you'd change into jeans, you'd walk 3 miles to this restaurant, and if you went there, then you could have a Corona or a Guinness. But otherwise, military people weren't supposed to drink. So we'd go there just so you could have a beer and just feel like a human being for a little bit. But not like a baby, because they treat us like babies.
So that was just for the 1 month that you got to do that?
Yes.
I guess I didn't realize that there were that many contractors.
It's a complete waste of money. All they did was, I mean, they were doing jobs that military people do. What we were trained to do is to be that, you know, huge fuel supply unit. We could do that job. That was part of my job description also, but they turned it over to civilian contractors. There was another group. There was a big, Cheney had long time connections with it, and they were like all over the place. They did all the food, all that stuff, and I'm sure they did it for a nice, pretty penny. So, I mean, it was a big waste of time.
Now, when you were back at your other base, your Anaconda, now did they have like the mess hall? I mean, were you eating those in whatevers?
No,
they had the instant stuff.
They had a mess hall, and it was, and they had, you get food there and whatnot. I mean, it was okay. I actually got kind of into a rut, and I would eat because you could get a burger every day, and I'd eat a burger every day. So I just didn't really want to eat anything else after a while. But they would shut it down every time they'd mortar us, and they mortared us every single day. Every day they shot mortars at us. And then in November was the worst because that was Ramadan, which is their a big to-do religious thing. And it was, they do it all day long. And every time they did, they closed down the mess hall. So you couldn't go there. But the base was pretty big, and we were kind of on the less populated area. So we didn't get mortared as much as the other side did. And it was frustrating because you think, why aren't we just going out and finding these guys who are constant? Because then basically they got a mortar tube set up in the back of a pickup truck. They'd drive as close as they possibly could, and then they'd shoot a couple mortars, and then they'd drive off in their truck, and we couldn't find them for some unknown reason. And then they do it. They probe all the way around all the time. And I'm sure there was more than one, but we couldn't stop them. So, I mean, basically it was like you talk about other wars, there were front lines. You know, here's the line. You go across this line, now you're fighting.
Right.
You back in this line, you're not fighting.
Right.
We were more like little islands of us surrounded by all of their junk. You know, all of the hostile stuff we were just an island in that.
So now were all the guys from your group, that went over together, now were they all from around here? Were they from?
Yeah, because, and that's the thing about being in the National Guard, is you end up being just around people from your area. Now, we were in Peoria.
Okay.
But we had companies in Chicago and Decatur that were all in our group too.
Okay.
So one Black Hawk company was from Chicago, one Black Hawk company was from Decatur. Excuse me. One was from where we were, and then I was in the headquarters company, which is, we had the fuelers, the cooks, the mechanics, the flight control people. You know, we were all in that company. That was ours. Was HHC.
And then what were the others?
You know, like Bravo Company, Alpha Company.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And then we had another company we had attached with us was, because our F company was our Chinook company, which are the big ones that look like, the helicopter looks like a freight train.
Right.
And since they left, they went home, because we came, we had a unit from Hawaii attached to us. And they were Chinook company. And so we got to hang out with those guys a couple times. So.
Interesting. So you made a lot of good. Do you still now? Are you still National Guard?
No, I got out in '06.
Okay.
So I did not re-enlist. I completed 12 years.
Do you still keep in contact with any of the guys that you were with over there?
Just the one. And that's basically because he lives by Champaign, so.
Okay.
We get together about once every 4 months. We hang out. And that's it.
So how often did you call home? Or did you Skype? Okay.
No.
I just knew that a lot of the guys Skype, and I didn't know whether you had that capability in your location that you could have Skyped.
I don't know if we did or not. I'm not as technologically savvy. So. I'd call home probably once a week or so. Maybe a couple of times a week.
Okay, you were Army before.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you do when you were in the Army?
I was a fueler. I was a fueler from the get.
Okay. And then where were you stationed then?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And because when I went to MEPS, which is down in St. Louis, where they kind of run you through your physical and they give you your job.
Right.
And then he said, "Do you want to be Rambo?" The guy asked me, and I said, "No, I don't want to be Rambo. I just want you to give me money for college. That's what I want." And so he said, "Okay, I'll give you a fueler job, and you can do it for 2 years active, and then 2 years reserve." I was like, "Sweet, that's or 2.5 active." I was like, "That's good. I'll do that." Well, then I joined, and I went through basic and AIT, and I got assigned to an infantry unit in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So.
Can I stop you a second?
Sorry.
The guy said, "Do you want to be?" You say Rambo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I
Yep.
just want to make sure I heard what you said.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got assigned to an infantry in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Yep.
Where you left off.
Yep. So I got sent there. I was there for the whole time. For 9.
Were you married then?
No, I was not married. No. And so then, and basically I was attached to the motor pool guys, and they just had all the infantry unit had was like a wrecker and like 12 Humvees, which are for the master sergeants and the first sergeants and captains and whatnot, so they could drive around and look at people, and see, "Oh, look at those troops over there," and then they drive off in their truck, and that's what I filled was there.
So you were a fueler for a vehicle, not
Yes, I wasn't in aviation yet.
Not aviation, but
Right.
a Land Rover or Land.
Right, for the Humvees and the wrecker and all that.
So then how long were you active? Was it the 2.5 years?
Yep, 2.5 years, and then I got out, and was it because the area didn't have a reserve unit? They said, "We'll put you in the National Guard unit." And I was like, "Well, I don't. One's the same as the other to me. Fine." So I did that, and I was supposed to be at the company in Decatur.
Okay.
And that worked out good because I was from this area. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. Well, then they already had a fueler in Decatur, and they said, well, for now you're going to have to drill in Peoria. So I was like, okay, fine. So I went to Peoria, and then like 6 months later, they said, well, we've got this opening now in Decatur. Do you want to come back? And I said, no, I already know these guys here. I'll just stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's why I was in Peoria. And I just stayed in Peoria for the whole rest of the time.
So did you go to school then? Did you go to college then?
For a semester, and then my girlfriend got pregnant. and then I dropped out. So.
And decided we're going to be a dad.
Yep. So.
So now, do you still, how many children do you have? Did you just have the 3 now?
Just the 3, yep. And,
Boys, girls?
the oldest is a boy. He's 17, he's a senior.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm. And then I've got a girl, she's 7th grader. And then I've got the youngest one, the one that was born, he's 10, he's 5th grader. So
what do you do now?
I work at Illinois American Water as a water operator. So I we bring the water out of the wells and I treat it with lime and chlorine and all that stuff.
For distribution?
Mm-hmm. To send it out in
Okay.
drinking water. So.
Are there any things that stand out, either during when you were active Army or when you were active National Guard, that any stories, any special person that maybe you were with, that you know, whether it was one of your, maybe your instructor, one of your officers, one of your comrades?
Well, my other section sergeant that was with me was Eric Ray, and he was probably, I'd say, the hardest working person I've ever met in my entire life.
Now, where was he from?
He was from Wyoming, Illinois.
Okay.
Which I believe is
I've
north
heard of it.
I think it's north of Peoria. He had quite a distance to drive to Peoria, but there wasn't any place else for him to go. And he was a big old country boy, and he would, it was horrible trying to keep up with him, you know, because he was the other section sergeant, so you try to work as hard as he would, and I'd just be so exhausted, because he never stopped. He had a battery that just kept on going all the time. He was a good guy, real good guy. But, you know, you kind of get separated. You think, well, I'll always keep in touch with these guys, and then...
Especially since you're not in the National Guard anymore.
Right.
Otherwise, you still would.
Right. Yeah, and he stayed in. He actually got, I think he got to the E8. I don't know if he's still in or not. I imagine I think he actually got to be a first sergeant someplace, which he totally deserved. He was, the hardest working person.
Now, when you first joined the service,
Mm-hmm.
how old were you?
19. No. Yes. 19.
What did folks think?
The reason I joined was it was that Christmas. I had gone to Parkland for a year and a half, and honestly, I don't even know why I wanted money for school, because I was a dismal student. I hated school. I despised it. So I had dropped out of Parkland, and I was like, I'm done. It's over. And I was working part-time at Kmart in Champaign, where the Home Depot is now. And so I was working there, and my mom sent out a form letter with the Christmas card that year. And my brother, who's 5 years older than me, it was like, Craig's going to the U of I to get his civil engineering degree, and blah, 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 how awesome he is. And then it says, and Kent's working part-time at Kmart. And I remember reading that form letter, and I thought, well, shit, I got to do something. So I was like, you know what, I'll just join the military. And that's what I did. And they were like, okay.
So why'd you go Army?
Because my dad went Navy.
Okay.
So, and I knew I didn't want to be a Marine, and I wasn't smart enough for the Air Force. So.
Do you have any regrets about going Army?
No.
Would you do anything different?
No. I don't think so. No, and then, you have that initial time. So when I was in the Guard, when I first got there, that was right after that the river had flooded.
Okay.
And
So were you involved with that?
no, they were finished wrapping that up when I got
Okay.
there. And they're like, do you want to go spend, like 5 weeks, doing sandbags? And I was like, I just got out of the Army. I kind of want to not put on a uniform for a while. And they're like, that's fine. But they said, hey, we got this, we can give you an extra $5,000 if you re-enlist right now for an extra such and such time. And I was like, sure. So I did that. And that, and then I had fun with it. And then they came up with, oh, we're going to, because all our summer camps were like Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, just horrible places. Well, not horrible places, but they were just run-of-the-mill places. Well, then they said, in 2 years, we are going for our 2-week thing in Iceland. And I'm like, I will and I was close to getting out. And I said, I will re-up if you promise me I get to go to Iceland. And they were like, done. So that's why I re-upped that time. And Iceland's what led me into being available when...
So did you go to Iceland?
Yes.
And what was Iceland like?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I loved it. I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was like something from a Norse mythology kind of thing. It was just like, all the rocks were all fuzzy with moss. And like, they were like, whatever you do, don't touch that moss, because that moss has been growing for like 200 years. And if you step on it, you'll kill it. So you could not leave the road if something happened. So you had to stay on the road. And like, they're hoping that, I guess, something grows out of that. And they had beautiful waterfalls, and we went in the summertime, so it was light all the time. And so it was awesome. I mean, it was...
Well, why did they go to, why Iceland?
I don't know. We did some kind of... I don't know. I just flew the helicopters.
You just went?
Yeah, I just went. I flew the helicopters, and at the time I was like, I think I was an E5, so I didn't really... The big mission part didn't really concern me. So, but that was cool.
Now, go back to Anaconda when you were there. Now, I would say when you were regular military, it was more like an 8-to-5 job. Most military, you work first shift, second shift, third shift, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
But it's basically you go in at a set time and go. Was that the same there at Anaconda, or was it more of a... It depended on what was going on?
No, we had enough...
Did you have enough people that you could kind of like, on first shift, second shift, third shift?
We did 2 shifts.
Okay.
So we just worked 12s. And for the majority of the time, I worked thirds.
Okay.
Or I guess not thirds, but...
Second or whatever you want to call it. Nights.
Yes, I was working the nights.
Okay.
Part, which was fine. I mean, and...
Did they do a lot of flights at night?
Ton. We actually would end up fueling more than the day shift.
Really?
Yeah. Most of their flights were at night, in fact. And so we'd do that. We'd, you fuel those, and we played a lot of Halo video games just to pass the time. And we played a lot of chess, and then we actually seemed to be like really lucky, or as to where we went, and then leaving those places, and then things would go down. So like we were in Camp Anaconda, and we were on a mission. We went to Fallujah, and we went up there for a mission, and so there was just like 14 of us went, and we drove up there in the convoy, and we got up there, and we were only there for like 3 days, and they were like, oh, never mind, we're going to cancel this mission. So we get back in the convoy, we could drive down. It was like the next week, Fallujah went nuts, and they're bombing everybody there. And and somebody walked into a dinner tent and blew a lot of soldiers up, and we were just in that tent the week before. Then we're in Baghdad, and I told you about the Chinese restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
The next month, when I'm back in Anaconda, somebody went in there and blew the hell out of that one. And then there was a mission down south. That was with Marines. I didn't go to that because I was I was home. And when they came back and things went bad after that, I can't remember when that was. I didn't go. But we just kind of got lucky as to things going down while we weren't there, or after we were there. So, yeah.
So now, did you have another company come in and replace you then?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, a group from Montana came, and they were replacing us. And I think when they finished up, they said that we had flown more hours in our companies, in our first and 106, than anybody else in the country. Anybody else. So, I mean, they moved a lot. They were constantly flying. So, I remember when Montana came, and so they had these bunkers. It was like these big concrete bunkers, and every time they'd mortar us, you'd have to throw on your helmet and your flak vest,
right?
And you'd go into the bunker and you'd wait there, and you'd wait for an hour or whatnot. Well, that lasted for about a month, and then basically we'd just kind of hide out in the trailer, and even like hell with it. And I remember walking. It was like the last month before we got home. And the mortars had gone off, and they'd sounded the siren, and everybody was in the bunkers. And me and my buddy are walking, and we look, and all the Montana people are sitting in the bunkers, all with their Kevlar, and they're all hunkered down. We just kind of laughed and walked past. Because it was like, it's amazing how numb you become to all of it. You're just like, whatever, just quit bothering me. You're shutting down the damn chow hall, and I just want to eat. I just want to eat. Quit bombing every time when it's chow hall time.
They did that on purpose,
Totally
right?
did that on purpose. So that was a bummer. And then, there was a time, so my wife had sent me seasons of Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd all get together, and a buddy of mine had bought a TV, because you had to buy special TVs because it was like 240.
Yeah.
Everything's 240 volts. So he had a TV and a VCR or DVD player. And so we'd all gather together there every so often, and we'd watch episodes of Sopranos. Because we were all behind and we didn't know any of it. So we started watching that. And we're watching, and we're all just kind of hanging out, and then we hear this loud bang. And it's like, huge bang. And we're like, what the hell? And we get out of the trailer, and everybody, like, in the trailer, and the other one across from us, they're all peeking out of their doors. We're like, did you hear that? Like, yeah. Like, what was that? I don't know. So then we're getting ready to go to work, and my buddy picks up his backpack, which is behind his bed. He picks it up, and a bullet drops out of off the backpack. And we looked, and there was a hole in the ceiling where the bullet had come down through the ceiling of the trailer. Because the trailers were basically just aluminum.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no real thickness to the trailer at all. And the bullet had come down, and we took it to somebody, and they were like, it's an AK-47 bullet, which no military person has. So it was shot from, an Iraqi or whatever they were. So
Should have been like shot up in the air and came
yeah,
down.
they just shot it up in the air, and then it came down. And then when we were in Baghdad, like you were in these bunkers with all the they had trailers and they had like sandbags built up around it. And me and my buddy were hanging out, and the Blackwater mechanic, I don't even know his real name. We called him Biscuit, and he was like, big dude, like 6'5", 280. And Biscuit was a big old Southern boy, and he would come and hang out with us sometimes. And we were all hanging out, and the Iraqis had won a soccer game or something in the World Cup. And it was like the first time that they'd been able to play in it in a while. And you'd go outside, and there was just, you could, like tracer runs, you know what those are, with the, you know, and it was just across the sky above us. It was just all these tracer rounds, because they were all shooting their guns back and forth because they were so happy.
It was celebratory.
Sure.
They were so, oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, and then they're like, you gotta get in your trailer, and we're like, whatever.
Well, now, did you ever were you interacted with the Iraqi people?
Never. No. We had a couple that would show up for some kind of fueling stuff, but I mean, I saw more Filipinos than I did Iraqis, because the Filipinos did all the jobs over there. They handed out, they dished out the food, they dished out the, they cleaned the shower areas, they did.
Yeah, they were part of the contractors?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were. But yeah, there was more Filipinos than there were anybody else that I saw. I think they purposely kept us separated from the Iraqi people, just because the religion is so strict that you could easily do something to offend somebody, or
that you wouldn't realize that you
right.
So, all right, in your camp, then you had the helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you have infantry in that also there on that camp? Or was it just strictly you guys with your air support?
There must have been infantry there. I don't recall really ever running into anybody that was infantry. I mean,
you were in your own little corner of the world over there.
Right. And we had to supply our soldiers to go up on the towers and and watch the areas at night. So, I mean, we were pulling all the duties that infantry would have done, so I can't imagine they were there, because we were doing everything that infantry would have done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I didn't know if it was a large enough camp that you had more than one, what do I want to say, MOS, not MOS.
Yeah.
But whether you had Air Corps and then you had infantry, or,
I mean, basically we were in the aviation area, and then, like, everything was on the other side of the base.
Okay.
Like, all the PX and you had to drive for 10, 15 minutes just to get over there to the other side of the base.
Wow.
So we were
you were completely over
completely separated. We were all alone where we were at, which was nice. And, and then I don't remember who we were under. I remember their nickname was Catfish. That was the battalion that was in charge of us. And they came and they were like, active duty, and they were like, whatever you do, your uniform's got to be tip-top, and, and all this stuff. And it was just, I remember I was so surprised, because it was not what I thought war was supposed to be like. We were worrying about dumb stuff, but these jerks are mortaring us every day, and we're not doing anything about it. And I'm like, this is too dumb.
Frustration.
Yeah. I could sum it up as dumb. I don't even know what we did, honestly, but whatever.
But you did your job that you were asked to do.
Yep. So
now did you call home to Mom and Dad too? Or your folks, or just wife? And then she just relayed all the messages.
She did most of the relaying. I did occasionally.
All right, so let's see. The other one was 10, so your oldest one would have been 7, 6 or 7 when you left to go over. So now, did you call home so you could talk to the older ones?
Oh yeah. I talked to them, and it was hard because they just kind of didn't get it, especially Ellie. She didn't really understand it.
Because she's the middle one.
Yeah, she was 2, so she had no idea.
She didn't know what happened today.
But so.
I'm looking to see if they give us some questions, just to see if...
I would say the convoy up was probably the Harriet that could have been. Just because, before we had gone up, it wasn't 6 months. Well, no, it was a year, I guess. It was been a year prior, was the whole Jessica Lynch thing.
Okay.
Which, if you remember, she was the soldier that went up and she got captured. She was like the POV or POW, and then they, the special forces guys got her out, and basically they broke down step by step what her crew did wrong that happened to them, why this happened, and what it was is they got lost and they turned back around, and then they turned back. They went through the same area 3 times before they ever got attacked. So they basically it was almost egging it on, because they're rolling through and rolling through and rolling through. So it was like they kept talking to us about, whatever you do, don't go back, drive on, keep going. And, and you got to be a hard target. If you're not a hard target, if you're not sitting there looking like you're ready to mess some stuff up, they're going to hit you. They're going to hit you. And if you see trash on the side of the road, that's an IED. They're going to blow you up. They're going to do this and that. And Haji's going to kill you all the time. I mean, that's all they did was it was Haji, Haji, Haji. And looking back on it, I realized that was basically their way of somewhat dehumanizing the enemy. Where, if you hang a slur on them and you say that name over and over again, you stop thinking of them as people and you start thinking of them as a monster that's out to kill you. So that way, you won't be afraid to kill them if you have to. So we drive, and the guy in front got lost, and we ended up going into Baghdad. And we were in, the middle of Baghdad. And it's tight. It's not made, and we're driving a 5,000-gallon Hemi truck. So it's full of fuel, rolling through here, and there's tons of us, and we got split up. The convoy got split up, and the first group, which I was in, they told us to stop. So we had to stop
in the middle of Baghdad.
In the middle of Baghdad, waiting for the rest of the group to catch up. So we're sitting there, and there's thousands of people around, walking by, stink-eyed, constantly. They're looking you down they hate us. They hate us. And I thought, if one of them throws a rock, because we were so hopped up and so just ready, that if just one of them threw a rock, you would see my face on CNN. Because we'd have killed them all. And that's the part that's really scary, is that at that moment, at that time, I'd have killed all of them and not thought a second about it. And that's really kind of screwed up, that I'd have done that at that time. But we didn't have to. I mean, we did, and we were able to drive on, and we didn't end up on CNN. And
the convoy didn't have any problems.
And the convoy ended up not having any problems, and we didn't get hit at all, and we rolled on. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And then, looking back on it, you're like, I didn't do anything over there. I didn't do anything of any importance. I didn't fight anybody. I never fired my gun one time. But maybe that was the best, that I didn't. But I kind of wish I had. I wish that I'd done something. But,
But you did. It's just not to that extent where you had to fire your weapon.
right.
I mean, you had an important job, and you did what you needed to do.
Right.
Because you weren't there to fight as such.
Sure, right. And we were like the most heavily armed convoy you've ever seen because we had so many crew-served weapons, which are basically weapons that you traditionally would mount on a helicopter.
Okay.
So we had like 50 calibers and M60s and saws and we had the big guns mounted on these trucks ready to just
Well, now, then whenever you went like to up to Fallujah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing. We'd have it. But Fallujah was different because most of the time you're just driving through nothing.
Okay, I guess that's what I was going to ask. So were you ever, when you went on these side missions, I guess I'd call them,
Mm-hmm.
were you ever in, I don't want to say in danger, because I'm sure you were, but were you ever...
Well, see, Fallujah was more, I just remember driving and driving. And that's what a lot of Iraq was just, because they had like this one big highway through the whole thing.
Okay.
And that was where we all went. So there was no guesswork as to which way we were coming.
Okay.
But part of that road was messed up and had been destroyed, blah, blah, blah. And so, and then you drive for hours and you're just basically squinting for that other truck in front of you because there's just so much dust. And you get off and you just take the dust. But most of the driving is dust.
Okay.
And that
But
was
the other times when you went on the outs, when you went out,
yeah, it was just.
but you weren't your convoy, your group was never attacked or never
No.
shot at or.
Mm-mm. And then, but when I went down to Baghdad, we didn't convoy. They just put us on a Black Hawk. They had a mission going down there, and we flew down on the Black Hawk, which was cool because the way they flew it's called Nap of the Earth, and it's basically they fly as close to the Earth as they can. So they follow the contours of everything. So like say this is a hill, and they come up and then they fly over the hill and then come down. So like it's like a roller coaster.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like oh no, that was going home on leave. We flew in a Sherpa, which is like one of those planes you see like them flying up in Alaska, kind of.
Okay.
And they were flying Nap the Earth, and he was vomiting all around because it was a rough ride. You're just going around like a roller coaster, but worse. But yeah, that was kind of neat.
Now, did everybody in your group, did they all get leave to come home?
Yeah.
But now, did they have to be there a certain length of time before they got leave to come home, or could they just come home whenever?
No, you had to kind of, so like the people in charge of me would say, I can't afford more than 3 of you gone at a time or whatever. So here's your dates. Pick them out. You guys decide what you want to do. And basically there was me and another kid who were having babies. So we were like, that's where I'm at, obviously. And my wife had the previous 2 were C-sections, so I knew.
You had the date set.
So I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
So that'd have been kind of a bummer if I'd have come home and nothing had happened. But at least this way I knew it was going to happen. So.
What about the other kid? That they had the baby. Did he make it home in time?
Yeah. Yep. He made it home in time, and she did have her. I think they induced her, and went with that. But
now, I know. Did you have like R&R? Do they still call it R&R? They used to have R&R.
Oh no.
I mean, you could get away from the base, or were you were there?
You were there. That was it. That was your life.
Except for your time that you got to go home on leave.
Right. But I mean, it wasn't like you know, like a Vietnam guy or a World War II guy or Korea or something like that. If they were, you know, like I said, they have that front line and they're past that,
Right.
and they're sleeping in the dirt and they're, you know, and they're in the mud and they, you know, and it's miserable and they're constantly looking because the enemy could be 6 foot away.
Right.
And then they go behind that line and now they can, you know, be a human being for a while. But with ours, I was never sleeping in the mud. It was just, that's where we were. We set down our stakes in this huge area and said, this is where we are. And you never left there. You did not leave the gates unless it was on a mission to do anything. So you just didn't go in. I mean, well, there was no R&R. There was no, let's experience, let's see what's, you know, what the local culture is or anything.
Yeah.
You just didn't do it. You were separated completely.
So did they have activities for you guys to do? I mean, I know you said you played chess, you played video games, you did this, did that. Now okay.
I mean, they had like,
Did you have air conditioning in any of these
yes,
facilities?
and our trailers were all air conditioned.
They were air conditioned.
Yeah, which was awesome because
I was going to say, because it got really hot over there.
it was
too,
horrible. Yeah, and then, but you'd have blackouts because the generators just couldn't keep up sometimes, and that was miserable, especially if, like me, you were working at night and you're trying to sleep during the heat of the day. Now in like November and December, I really remember it got cold and rainy. I'm like, that's crazy. But yeah, we had air conditioning and everything, and that was nice. I remember thinking, well, if I didn't have air conditioning, I could see why people would be really angry here. You know, I just didn't understand why they didn't all just walk north. But it was. I remember being at Baghdad in August, and that was the hottest that I'd ever experienced in my life. Because I think it was out on the tarmac. They were saying it was like 120, 100 something like that. And I remember it felt like an oven, like opening the oven, sticking your head in there, and then taking a hairdryer and blowing it against your face, and your eyes would gum up because they dry out so much. You know, you're constantly putting eye drops in because you'd get all sticky. You'd be like, I can't, because your eyes couldn't keep enough water, and you were constantly chewing gum because that was the only way to keep any moisture in your mouth. And they give us these water bottles, they're like this tall, and you drink like 4 of those a day, and it's constantly drinking water. But it was a neat experience, you know, as far as that goes. It wasn't like, but you know, people say, well, you got dry heat. I mean, you know, I totally get it because it was not the same as like the humidity. Like there's summers here where I'm like, this is horrible. And over there, you're like, it's hot, but it wasn't like miserable because it was just not sticky and you didn't feel it drained. So, yeah, it was weird. It was like, I imagine it's maybe like Arizona. Never been there, but that's what I'm imagine it's like. So.
You went for that, and then you had cold too, you said? There was it cold then?
Yeah, it got cold, but I mean, it was cold relative, I think. You know, I don't remember what the temperature was. I remember it was rainy, and I'd say probably 40 or 50 degrees or something like that. And it felt
considering really 120 to
right.
That's a big...
It was a big swing, yeah, but... Yeah.
So did you get a lot of packages from home?
Tons. My wife was awesome. She sent me a package every day. So I got some every single day. So.
How about other people? Did others?
Few. In fact, my wife had me get a list from everybody in my section as to what they wanted for Christmas, And then she got money from the Legion and the VFW from here and bought everybody Christmas presents and sent them to us.
How neat.
She's awesome.
And I would imagine that that meant a lot also to all the group that you were with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some people didn't get anything, you know, hardly at all. At all. You know, and here she was sending them stuff.
And so did you share what she sent you?
Oh, yeah. You know, and it was funny because there would always be these lists of things you need to get, like the soldiers want. They always want chapstick, they want eye drops, they want lotion, they want, you know, whatever. And there was a room in one of the trailers up by the headquarters company, and it was full of this, it was this big cardboard box, like this tall, full of that stuff. Because everybody get the packages, and you'd have it, and you'd be like, I've got 20 things of chapstick. I don't possibly need any more. So you just throw it in the box. And if anybody wanted it, you just
then it was there for them to take.
Right. Yeah. So and
because
then
not everybody got packages from home.
Right. And then you'd have a box full of books that people would throw, you know, any books that they've read already, and they'd throw them in there. And so then you'd have books to share and whatnot.
So did you have kind of like because I know you had like the mess hall. Then did you have like a building where you could all go and do like play cards or play chess or?
No.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they had a gym, I know.
Did they have a gym?
Yeah, they had a gym. And guys would go there and play basketball. They had
I guess I'm thinking like maybe a rec hall or something. But
well, they had like
gym,
they had a big TV, like a huge screen TV at one of the offices.
Okay.
And I remember we went there in February. No, January. No. It was December because it was a non-conference game. And me and a bunch of buddies woke up at 4 in the morning and we went to go watch the Illini play against Wake Forest. And that was the game where Wake Forest was ranked #1 and the Illinois beat them, and that was the year we made it to the championship game.
Oh, okay.
So we went, and there was like 6 of us got up at 4 in the morning, or 3 in the morning, and we went to this, because it was a big screen TV, and we're like, yes. So we all watched that, and we're like, wow, they're really good. I mean, that was the first time I got to watch them all season, but I remember watching the Wake Forest game, because they were the #1 seed, and we were like, I don't know what we were at the time.
That was neat.
That was neat. So I remember that. Trucking over there. I mean, we had to walk probably a mile to do it, but I mean, we all wanted to go see it, so that was cool.
That's neat. That's neat. So then when you came home and you're out, did you join a veterans organization?
No.
Thinking about it? Not at the moment?
No. Not really.
Is there anything else that you think that... It's interesting to listen to the stories. I know you think that your job may have been very mundane. I mean, you just you got up, you went and you flew the helicopters, you came back, and that was... But still, that's a part that made things go.
Yeah. I did get to walk around Saddam's palace in Baghdad.
Really?
Yeah. Because that was in the green zone. And the military had taken it over as a base. And so, like, you know, we'd go there to, I don't even know what we went to. It was just me. I remember me and my buddy walked there, and we just basically walked around this palace for a couple hours, just checking things out. Baghdad's got, like, a lot of cool architecture to it. Like, there was
Now, were you in civilian clothes?
No, we were in our flight. We
Okay.
had, like, a flight suit thing that we got to wear.
Okay.
And the Blackwater guys took us up in their little birds.
Okay.
So we got to fly in that. And have you ever seen the picture of the two hands with the swords crossing?
Mm-hmm.
And we flew underneath that, and then we flew like all around there and checking out Baghdad, seeing the whole thing. We landed like on top of one of the skyscrapers, and then we just kind of landed there for a little bit, and then we took off again. And he was, obviously the guy was kind of showing off, doing whatever he could to, but it was cool. It was really neat.
Did you come home with a lot of pictures?
No, not really.
Okay.
My wife was kind of bummed about that, but
At the time, you didn't think about it, probably.
I'm not much of a picture person anyway, so I just didn't do it. So, I mean, in any of my pictures, they're all like of something. It's not of me or.
But that's, yeah.
Yeah, but it was. We had not too many, really. That's it.
Well, I think you've done an awesome
That was
job.
my year in the desert.
You don't regret it?
No, not really. No, I mean, when honestly, I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for Joe, because Joe really wanted me to do this. I tend to think it's easier to not talk about it, to not think about it, because it kind of, I don't know, it just gets me riled up. It's kind of like the same reason that I won't watch the news anymore, because I just get irritated by the whole thing. My wife says that I got the PTSD. I don't know. I think she's crazy.
Well, you've done an awesome job on the interview. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
And I think we're done.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes,
I do
thank you
appreciate
very much. And you did an awesome job. And thank you so much for your service, and you did do important things.
You're welcome. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you. Take care.
You too.
It's hot in here.
My feet are cold. But
Really?
It wasn't that until he just opened that door. And
I'm
the
like,
oh, he was dying. I know he said before it started. And I said, I would imagine they fell.
yeah, that's what you were talking about. Okay, I didn't know.
The history project. So we went to look at the history project,